Previously on the Simon and Ross podcast.
My pen's out. I'm crossing Empire out. I'm putting Star Wars.
All right, just keep Empire then.
That's fine.
Was that too much? That
Twist in my arm.
Under all circumstances, can you cross out Empire in whatever context?
Yeah.
All right, so number 3, A New Hope. What are we doing, number 1?
No, have we just done number 2?
Yeah, it was Hook.
Hook is your number 2.
I mean, we didn't talk about Hook much, but you know, it was there. It was mentioned.
Well, I mean, you have to go watch it.
Yeah.
Well, we start talking about.
No point in trying to talk about Hook or Jumanji with you, is there?
So we'll talk about Jimmy Savile instead. Right, so before we go to number 1, I'll do a recap. So at number 5, we have Fight Club. At number 4, Empire Strikes Back. Definitely Empire Strikes Back. Number 3, I've written Mrs. Doubtfire. It was Hook, wasn't it? It was Hook.
What kind of show is this?
And I've not written down number 2. What was number 2?
Number 2 was Hook, wasn't it? No, you missed out Fight Club.
No, he had Fight Club.
Fight Club,
Yeah.
Empire Strikes Back.
Shining.
Hook.
The Shining was the first
Oh.
one.
Shining.
Wasn't The Shining
Right,
a
okay.
reject?
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
In Bruges. In Bruges.
Oh,
In Bruges.
yeah.
There we go. No, that was 6. But anyway.
You talked about so much stuff.
It's very tangent-heavy podcasts.
Yeah.
So it's very common to lose track of where we are. It happens all the time. That's a sign of a good one.
Good flow, yeah.
So number 1.
Oh,
Simon, what the fuck?
Anders number 1. Ooh, we think. Might be number 2. Might be number 12. We don't know.
All right. Trying to say something that The Voice. Okay, yeah. The Voice. That's your first clue.
The Voice.
Mm-hmm. Nothing.
No.
House Atreides.
Eh?
Oh.
House of what?
Atreides.
So
House of Atreides.
original or new?
New. I kind of like
Right,
them both,
okay.
but I do like the new one.
Right, okay.
What the fuck's House of Atreides?
Still Suit. I think I've stumped Ross.
Yeah, you might as well be talking in fucking Latin right now. Keep the words coming.
Spice. If you don't get it on this one.
Space.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that might seem like a good clue if you know what any context around the other ones. But to me, right now, I've got a lot of spice.
Is it Spice World from the Spice Girls?
Yes.
So we've got House of Atreides. I don't know what that is. We've got spice. We've got soap and meatloaf's tits.
That was from before.
It's a different film.
What were the other clues? And there's 2 versions of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's some series as well, mini-series.
This might help him. It's a series of books.
One of the best sci-fi writers known.
Big worms.
Big word.
That's a dead giveaway.
Very big worms. Huge worms, in fact. I was going to say tremors in a minute.
Kevin Bacon.
Sand. Sand. Lots of sand.
David Lynch. Sting.
Oh God, that should
Have I seen this or read any of them? Or
I thought you'd read I thought you'd read it, or
Oh,
were going
right.
to read it.
Oh, maybe I've just got it. But no, I think
Yeah.
you're massively overestimating my knowledge of it.
Okay.
Are you talking about June?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you not read it?
I haven't read it. I haven't seen
Oh,
the original.
Ross, read the book, Ross.
Oh yeah, but you
Read
can't,
the
it's not
book.
it's not the same as bloody whatever. fucking thing.
Yeah.
What are your
I've not
opinions, Simon?
I've not seen the new one. Not seen
No.
the new one. I really want to. Was it Ryan Johnson that directed it? Oh, Villeneuve, Dennis Villeneuve.
Yeah,
one of the two.
Yep.
Yes, Dennis Villeneuve. So he did Blade Runner 2049, whatever. Yeah. And that was genuinely one of the most beautiful films I've ever seen. Blade Runner. The new one.
The new one.
Yeah. The story isn't amazing, but it's beautifully filmed. Every single bit of it. It's you could pause any bit of it and have it as wall art.
Yeah.
Is June similar?
Yeah. Oh yeah. The scape that, like, the book gives you so much like detail on how big things are.
Yeah.
And they really nailed that on in the visuals for this film.
So the books are worth reading then. Is it a trilogy then, or?
Well, the first book was
a trilogy, I think.
Yeah, there's like a few of them. The first book was actually written by Frank, but I think his son wrote the sequels, which is why they're not really that great compared to the first one.
No.
At least that's what I've heard. Is that wrong?
No, I don't think that's true.
Just call him a liar to his face, Ross. Just call him a liar.
I'm just looking and there's June.
Yeah, I think I am wrong. Oh shit, I am.
Yeah.
Are you thinking of Tolkien?
He might. What the fuck? I thought his son wrote. Maybe I am thinking of Tolkien because his son wrote the Silmarillion, didn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, and he continued to write.
No.
Long after.
No, that's bullshit as well.
No, it's not.
No.
Tolkien wrote
Christopher
Silmarillion.
Tolkien did. Yeah,
I thought
did,
Silmarillion was just like notes, and then his son pieced it together.
He put it all together. Yeah.
Yeah, it was published posthumously.
Don't question Ross on Tolkien. He'll snap back at you very quickly, like a big worm.
Well, the whole point is the Lord of the Rings was basically everyone saying, "Look, you've got this amazing world. You need to make it more accessible because no cunt's going to sit down and read Silmarillion as it is."
No.
Have you read the Silmarillion?
A lot of us own it, but I've never read it.
Yeah, I've read it a long time ago, and I'm going to read it again because I read it when I was too young, really. So I didn't fully understand a lot of it. I read The Hobbit, all of the Lord of the Rings, and the Silmarillion, as well as some other bits and pieces from Tolkien when I was really young.
Yeah.
And then went back and I've reread. I mean, I've read Lord of the Rings a couple of times. We did a full podcast on it. I made Simon read all the books.
No, that's cool.
which is a big thing because Simon can't read. So I mean, that was.
How the hell did that work?
It didn't.
You have a microphone in this, or
I finished them so far ahead of. I don't think you ever finished them, did you? You just thought, right, we've done the series. I've got no. I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you sleep at night. Actually.
Very well, thanks.
But first of all, with that fringe. Second of all, I don't know how you can do so well, right? Given that I know that you don't read pretty much at all.
Yeah.
We start this together. Saying
I can read road signs and things.
You read all of the Fellowship, all of the Two Towers, and 70% of Return of the King, and then just decide to not finish it. That's mad. That's madness to me.
I know how it ends.
You don't know.
I do.
How? Because it's not the same way it does in the films.
No, Saruman comes back and messes the Shire up.
Yeah, well, I've told you this, but that's not the point.
No, I knew that anyway because
I've
already read. I have already read the books, Ross.
Well,
without
he does,
you, but yeah.
Do you not know this?
How did he come back?
Have a go at him for not reading the books. Go on. Have a go at your friend for not reading the books.
Yes, the end of the books goes on a lot more than the films, and all the hobbits return back to the Shire, and it's a fucking hellhole, and it's been taken over by orcs, and even like hobbits have now, it's basically turned into a dictatorship, and a lot of people are in prison. It's just black and horrible, and like they see it, they have this vision in the Palanthea of the Shire burning. That's basically what it's like. They go back and they know that there's this chief that everyone's talking about that's basically responsible for all of this, and they have to fight their way through. And there is a thing called the War of the Shire, and they go to Bag End, and Saruman.
It's called the Raising of the Shire, Ross.
Raising of the Shire, fine. And the
I read the titles.
So basically, Saruman has survived and has taken up residence in Bag End.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And Wormtongue.
I thought he killed Wormtongue.
No,
or is that just in the films?
So
just the films.
So in the book, Wormtongue kills Saruman.
Yeah.
Because basically the hobbits kill all of Saruman's forces within the Shire.
How?
Because first of all, Merry and Pippin are juicy. Merry and Pippin are juicy.
Okay.
Yeah, fucking. They hang out with the Ents.
Yeah.
Well, they drink all of the Ent juices.
Oh. Okay.
And the Ent juices make them juicy. So the fucking just built muscular hobbits that are about twice the size that they should have got any right to be.
Can't scratch their backs.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Stick a watermelon between the shoulder blades and they can't get it.
But they all, each of the hobbits, so Frodo, Sam, Merry, and Pippin, they all disperse and basically raise a hobbit army because all the hobbits are too scared to stand up against this force that's invaded the Shire. So they come back from obviously destroying the ring. They're all full of beans and confident and juicy in some instances. So they raise this army. They destroy all of Saruman's followers, go to Bag End. Saruman and Wormtongue come out and they have a conversation on the doorstep. And then Saruman's starts giving shit to Wormtongue. Wormtongue stabs Saruman in the back. And then they're all like, let Wormtongue go or something. Or they try and... He basically goes to run and somebody fucking fires an arrow into Wormtongue's back and he dies. And then, and then the Shire gets slowly built back up.
Nice.
But they have hobbit work camps, labor camps and that. It's fucking dark.
I can't imagine they could get much done being that short. What the hell can they work on?
Yeah, but remember, they're juicy.
Oh yeah.
So, they're juicy.
Couple of walking on bongos. Yeah. So the end of the actual books, the end of Return of the King goes far beyond what you see in the films.
But obviously, there's already 17 endings to Return of the King film anyway. So if they added another 12 onto the end of it, it'd feel like it never ended.
Well, they hang out, don't they, for ages in Gondor, because obviously Aragorn is now king. He gets married, and then they want the Rohirrim and that. No, they actually they do a tour. They do a bit of a sort of a farewell like Elton John's doing.
Oh, like a open top bus type thing.
Yeah. They do a bit of a farewell tour around Middle Earth, and
tour bus in Middle Earth. They
just stop they play a gig at Lothlorien, and then they play a gig in Rohan. It's an open top like Wembley, and all the favourites. They play all the favourites.
Galadriel comes on for a duet.
yeah. Gandalf comes on and does "Don't Stop Me Now." It's fucking brilliant.
I'd have put him down Morris Crocodile Rock.
And they all and then slowly but surely each of the travelers peel off to the respective places, and then you end up with just the hobbits, and they're back at the Prancing Pony, and the guy at the Prancing Pony is telling them everything. He's like, "Oh fucking hell, we've seen fucking orcs coming through here," and they're like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "There's been some orcs around here. It's not the same as it used to be around here since you boys left 10 months ago, And they're like, "Well, why? What's going on?" He said, "Oh, there's this mysterious fucking bloke who's raised the Shire and has gone there." Like, "Fuck me," So they then go back and they have that goes on for like 200 pages, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's like another little book at the back end of Return of the King.
Back end of bag end.
Right in the bag end, he got him, didn't he?
right up the bag end.
Right up there.
Like E.T.'s finger. So how do you feel about the David Lynch version then of Dune, by the way?
Oh, Dune. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I watched it before I read the books.
Yeah.
The first book. And then recently I watched it again and had a lot more appreciation for it because of how much Lynch actually put into it. I love Lynch as a director. It wasn't the best of his works. I'm actually glad he got that. Otherwise he would have directed Star Wars, and I don't think Lynch could do Star Wars. He got offered, George Lucas offered him to direct Star Wars, and he's like, no, I'm gonna go do Dune. So
right, okay.
Yeah.
I remember Dune coming out and it was marketed wrong.
Yeah.
It was marketed at kids. I had a Dune sticker book.
Yeah.
And
it's not a kid movie.
It's not a kid movie at all. It was marketed as one. I'm sure there was toys. And there was a big thing in England about Sting being in it, which is such a weird like little niche thing for him. But it was marketed all wrong. I went to see it as a kid, and I just thought, I don't get any of this. I don't get any of it. The bits where he's like riding the worm, you can appreciate as a kid because it looks fun. But the rest of it, absolute nonsense. It was.
It's a lot of talking.
It's a lot of talking.
I feel like
a lot of not much happening. Little bit of gross bits where he's picking his spots out of his face, and it's just a bit gross. And the thing is, obviously, coming back at it later after sort of watching a lot of David Lynch stuff, it's all the actors that are in all of the rest of it, the things that he's done as well. So it's kind of one of them that if you like David Lynch films, you kind of have to watch. Yeah. But you'd rather not. I think there was something. I think it was wasn't it supposed to be a series or something, and it got changed at the last minute to be a film or something, which is why it's a little bit rushed and a bit odd in parts. Because I think it was supposed to be a series. I might be wrong in this, but I think
you're right about that. I think I remember him, but the budget wasn't there.
And I think it overran budget wise and time wise, and I think it doesn't end at a weird point. It doesn't really end when the books finish. The ending is extremely ambiguous, and you're right. Now that you say that, the ending was pretty ambiguous. You have to be a book reader to know the story, to be like, okay, I guess I know what happens, but the audience, having not read the book, if you didn't, then you're gonna be like, what the fuck did I just watch? Yeah. And the fight scenes with Patrick Stewart when he's like as a block, it's just so weird.
It looks really stupid, but they didn't have 3D modeling back then.
No.
So they had to hand paint that every frame. That whole scene is hand painted, but it looks like it's 3D. So I mean, that's an accomplishment, but it was not
good. Shit.
It looks shit. I mean, we appreciate all the time and effort you've done there. 2 years of painting these has been amazing, but it's awful.
It's like me spending a year saying how many threads this carpet is made up of, and I could come back to you in a year and say it's this many. It might be impressive, but what a fucking waste of time. What's the fucking? It's like, oh, right,
the effort was put there. We gotta give them some accomplishment.
Why? I mean, do we still pay him? Dude, it's impressive. He's put a lot of time and effort in. He checked it 12 times as well.
Yeah, but
I don't want to pay him.
But the man is mentally ill.
Yeah, he lost his mind.
Dune is one of those things where I know nothing about it. I've always a friend of mine had the book, and I always intended to read it, just never did. And then I didn't want to watch the original film without having read the book.
Yeah.
Because it's always a bit fucked if you do it the other way around. It's better to read the book, have a really good time, and then be let down by the film. That's typically what happens. That's fine. The problem is if you watch the film and it's wank, it will put you off reading the book. So never do it that way. The book is usually the film is usually the shit one. Yeah, when it comes to book to film, the film is always it. I mean, can you think of a book that's shit but the film was awesome?
Mrs. Doubtfire.
Jack and Jill.
Don't think they're books, fellas. But you get the point, don't you? Very rarely is it the other way around, because if it was a shit book, nobody would think that'd be an amazing film.
I understand. Like, most people do agree with you on that, and because I have a minor in film studies, I tend to go the other way. I'd rather I find myself getting less disappointed by watching the film first and then reading the book, because that way I don't get my hypes up if I read the book first. You know,
the problem with doing it that way is it taints your imagination.
It does. You're right. Yeah.
You'll watch the film, and these characters are presented to you, and this is what they look like. And then you go to read the book, and inevitably those characters are going to look like Patrick Stewart. They're going to look like, whoever, and that's the way you envision them. Now, in some instances, that works amazingly well. Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, like they are expertly cast. Game of Thrones, perfectly cast.
Yeah, but if Harry Potter, the films had come out first, I'd have known Hermione's name was Hermione, not Hermione.
Yeah, that's just being retard, though. I can't help you with that. That's called being a retard. And there's loads of people that have done that, but I knew a Hermione. Like one of my best friends growing up was a girl called Hermione, so I knew it was Hermione.
I've never heard the name. I've never heard the name Hermione.
So many people know it was Hermione or Hermione. Yeah.
Well, I guess my imagination isn't like what it was when I was a kid, so I guess having those characters to envision helps me guide through the story, I guess, a bit more when I'm reading it.
I just like to have an idea in my mind of what somebody looks like off of my own, because that's the beauty of reading a book, right? Is you get to use your imagination. Everybody has like, the idea of what a place or what an area looks like, not just a character, but you could be talking about a town or a fictional village or whatever it is. And in your mind, you've got the layout is your own imagination. You've built what that layout looks like. And if you watch a film, you've robbed yourself of that, because it's very, very hard to think, well, I'm going to forget I've seen the film and I'm going to create my own. It's very, very difficult to do that once you've already seen somebody else's interpretation of it visually.
Well, how do you like when you're obviously when you read Lord of the Rings books, didn't you put a celebrity in that way, or did you completely make someone up on like 100% on your own?
I think you just imagine what those roles tend that, a wizard. What does a wizard look like? Well, before Gandalf exists, it looked like Gandalf.
Yeah.
Robes and long hair and a beard. That stereotype of a wizard was around before Ian McKellen played Gandalf.
Yeah.
Same with Gimli the dwarf, same with Legolas the elf, Aragorn. Yeah, it's the same sort of thing. It's like this guy with sort of he's like a hunter, he's a hunter gatherer. He's you've got stereotypes that pre-exist that help you understand what to envision what a character looks like, because Lord of the Rings that tale has been told over and over again in different ways.
Yeah.
And before and since.
Yeah,
before and since that tale the idea of a group of people setting off on a quest to accomplish something has been done over and over and over again. There was a module that I did, because I did film. That's what I did my degree in, even though I fucked it off before I graduated. But there was a module that we did in Keene State, and it was on narrative theory, and it was this sort of thing what we're talking about. It's where do these ideas come from? And there's a famous film theorist called Levi Strauss. Yep. And he talked about all these characters originating from Russian fairy tales, and this idea of a protagonist and an antagonist, which is the most recognizable story.
Bad guy.
But then you've got all the bits in the middle, like you've got the mentor, you've got the guide, you've got the father figure or the mother figure, you've got, this character will inevitably die, but not before they impart this wisdom, which will allow the protagonist to ultimately live. And all of those things.
Are you just talking about Star Wars, or is there other things?
Well, you can apply it. You can apply it. you could probably apply this to Jack and Jill. It doesn't have to be so overt.
Let's not put any film theory.
It's like you've got a character who has to achieve some sort of goal, and you've got something that's preventing them from achieving that goal. And lots of different character types have to play a part in order for point A to reach point B. And those narrative stereotypes take lots of different forms. And Levi Strauss basically listed all of them. He's like, here are the different forms these characters take, and here is the impact they have on the protagonist. And you can play around with that. So the really cool films that tend to be really unique fuck around with that base, those fundamentals of narrative telling. So, I'm just sort of talking off my head, but if you flip that on its head and you say, well, these characters are going to influence the antagonist instead of the protagonist, what you will end up with is something quite unique, because it's usually the other way around. And you can fuck around with those type of narrative theories. And that's where you get the films that do stand out as being quite different, like Fight Club. It doesn't follow a traditional, Chuck Palahniuk and like Bret Easton Ellis, he wrote American Psycho. Yeah. Amazing film. And like Fight Club, American Psycho has an unreliable protagonist. You're relying on this protagonist to guide you through the story and tell you the story. The problem is the protagonist is fucking mental. That's not a typical connotation of a protagonist. Normally the protagonist is a little bit more heroic, a little bit more trustworthy. Whereas they're like, well, what if the main character, what if your guide wasn't trustworthy? So you couldn't rely on what he was telling you as a film viewer, or you couldn't rely on him as a storyteller because he's fucking nuts. That's an interesting way of flipping a narrative on its head and making a story, better and a bit more different. I can't remember where I was going with this. No, we're talking about narrative theory. I can't remember why. But
we were talking because it led in from the reading before you watched the movie.
Oh yeah. The other one that I like, another popular film theorist, is a guy called Alexander Todorov, and he came out with this sort of theory that every single story has three parts. It has an equilibrium, a disruption, and a resolution. And at the start of every film is an introduction, and everything is okay. Everything is idealistic, and then something will happen that disrupts that equilibrium. And that the protagonist will always be trying to get back to that original equilibrium by way of the resolution. However, by the time you reach that resolution, that disruption that happened in the middle will forever have an effect on the beginning equilibrium. So they might get back to the Shire. However, all of the characters have been changed in such a way because of that disruption in the middle. So the resolution is reached. We've got a nice happy ending, but it's never quite the same as it was at the start of the film because of the events that have happened throughout. That's another quite common example of narrative theory. Todorov and Strauss are two of the biggest. You'll have come across them, and there's a lot. Yeah, those two guys always crop up in film theory and narrative theory. There's a few others.
I'm trying to think of films now that don't follow both of them. And I'm struggling.
Yeah. I mean, Fight Club, like I don't know if Fight Club started it. They probably didn't it. But like they started with the end first. It opens up to him getting shot in the mouth, and then
how does he miss? How does he miss from that? There is no way that anyone will.
I think it was intentional.
Do you think? It was himself trying not to, yeah.
Tyler probably was like, okay, he's actually going to kill himself. Yeah. I'd rather just leave.
Right. Okay. I've never got that. I thought, wait, the gun was in his mouth. How does he miss when it's in his mouth? But if he's purposely trying to, the other part of him is stopping himself from doing it, essentially. That's the only explanation, I suppose, for that. Yeah.
I guess you could say Fight Club was more character driven than story driven, right? Like, if you think like Tarantino is a good example of character driven. Like Pulp Fiction, you don't really know. Like, there's no sort of overarching. We're trying to get to this point. What you're doing is following lots of different characters, and like Hateful Eight is another one. There's no real. There's no like, okay, you've got this. This is the end point. This is where we're trying to get to, and various things are going to happen to get to there. It's like there is no real end point. It's like we're just focusing on this period of time with these characters, and there's no real story.
So it doesn't matter where they are either, does it? They could be anywhere and have the same same film could happen.
It's entirely driven by the backstory of these characters rather than trying to get from A to B. You know, like Hateful Eight, I think they're just trying to ride a storm out, aren't they? They're all these bunch of people have been forced into this space during the storm. What happens in that space?
I think Hateful Eight was originally going to be a play, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
that was the idea, and what a play that would have been.
Yeah,
a lot of people didn't like it, but that's actually one of my favorite Tarantino films.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's brilliant.
I love that film.
Yeah,
it's really good, but it's because it's so focused.
Yeah,
You've got to appreciate character driven, because if you look at Inglourious Bastards, that's less so. You've got a group of people who are trying to assassinate Hitler. That's your story.
Yeah.
So you've got a start point and an end point. You've got things happening, you know, that are driving towards that end goal. Are they going to actually get to Hitler?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think spoiler warning, they do.
Yeah.
Inglourious Basterds, he took a turn with that one. I think it was more focused on the story, like you said, instead of the characters, because we never really learned that much about each character like you do in some of the other ones, like in Hateful Eight. You learn everyone's story, why they're there and stuff like that.
Yeah, Tarantino's amazing. His characters are amazing, because there's films that like you even like one of the first Tarantino film I ever saw was Reservoir Dogs. And it's that, you know, you have an element of story just to set it up, but Reservoir Dogs is just the same as Hateful Eight, because you've something has happened that has led to this group of people being in this place together, and it's a heist gone wrong or bank robbery gone wrong, and all of these people are now in this building hiding out while the police find them. One of them's been shot, you know. And the entirety of the film is these characters that are good enough to carry the film without anything having to happen outside of that room.
Yeah.
No, that is it. And Tarantino, there's very few people that do it as good as well as Tarantino do.
Yeah.
That relied 100% on the writing.
Yeah. Just
the scene didn't change.
Yeah. Just one.
I think also he's if you ask me my favorite Tarantino film, I would say one. But then when I'm watching another one, halfway through, I think this one's my favorite one.
Yeah.
And then the next one I'll watch, I go, oh no, this one's my favorite one. It's so hard. It's so hard to choose.
And then there's ones that you could easily forget about, but probably are the best, like Jackie Brown.
Yeah. Oh, Jackie Brown is the best one.
I don't know many people who would say Jackie Brown's my favorite, but it's just as big a contender.
Yeah.
He's only doing one more film.
Supposedly,
he said he was going to do 10.
Yeah.
My favorite quote from him was, he didn't go to film school. He went to films. And that's what made him a maverick.
Yeah.
In my mind. So.
He went, what you mean, just went to see films rather than film school?
Yeah. Yeah. He looked into the source material instead of going to
just a pure nerd.
Taught. Yeah.
That's he's an auteur, isn't he? A lot of auteurs. If you go to film school, you learn a standardized way of doing things, and it can almost drill out any originality you might have.
Yeah,
it's like actors. There was the two acting schools, wasn't there? There was I haven't thought of these names. I'm going back now. What were the two?
Rada?
No, there was one was a lass, and one was who does Inside the Actors Studio?
Strasberg,
something Strasberg. Film schools. There was two film schools that were like the biggest in the world. But basically, one of them.
Can he hear you?
It'll come to me. There's no. I just said if it was one of them was something. I'm sure one of them was like Strasberg or something. But basically, one of them were kicked out a load of really famous actors that we all know. You know, really famous actors that like they're all your action stars. They're all your. If you pick a genre, they're the actors.
Michael Shamil.
No, if you pick a genre, they're the actors that you would see in that genre. The other side was responsible for putting out a lot of method actors, the likes of like Robert De Niro, Al Pacino.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
people who are just like unbelievably so durable. They can fucking turn the hand to any role, and they're on a different level. You know, like if you compare, I don't know, name any action hero, and then compare them to someone like Christian Bale, who can be an action hero if you need him to be, but he's also done all this other stuff. And that's the point, method acting, and then being taught a standardized way of acting. And I guess like directing and film school, the same thing. Like, you want to be the run-of-the-mill director, these are the things you need to know. But you need to have that element of just pure originality to be a Spielberg or a Tarantino or a Scorsese or a Lynch. You know, you can't just learn the standardized way of doing things to be one of those people, can you? You've got to do your own shit. You've got to be a bit fucking
risky. You got to take risks.
Yeah.
I'm reading the novelization of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and nothing's happened yet. It's just basically talked about other films, and you sort of. I'm already making a list of films that I need to watch just from like little conversations within that book. They're talking about like who did the Seven Samurai film. No, I've got. Isn't this microphone on? Hello?
What are you saying?
Yeah, I don't know who did it.
Right. Anyway. Lee Strasberg was one of them. Lee Strasberg was a Polish-born American actor, director, and theatre practitioner. He co-founded with directors Harold Clurman and Cheryl Crawford the Group Theatre in 1931, which was hailed as America's first true theatrical collective. So the Lee Strasberg School was one of them. Theatre and Film Institute. Method acting. He was the guy who put out that was a theatre that all the method actors went to.
I think Akira Kurosawa was who you were thinking of, Simon.
That's thanks for listening to me. Thank you.
Sorry. I went down a Wikipedia rabbit hole.
Yeah, that's fun. Right, anyway. That's it.
Thanks for listening, everybody. That was the first guest episode of 2022 with Anders Wickstrom. Thank you very much, Anders. You've been a great guest. Some really good films in there. I liked the format of just sort of like word association for the answers as well. Quite enjoyed that. It was like buzzing. It was like buzzing in, wasn't it?
You didn't get the last one. I gave you quite a bit.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, guys. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
No, it's a pleasure.
Yeah. And it always flies. I can't. I've just looked at the time. Then I can't believe it's been 3 hours and 15 minutes.
Well, you've been staring at Wikipedia for 2.5, so you know.
Ignoring Simon.
I've just got Adam Sandler in a dress on one screen.
He's got to save that for later.
That's in the bank. So if you'd like to join us on patreon.com/Simon and Ross, you get extra episodes early, and video episodes occasionally, all from £2.50 a month. And your support with that is appreciated, and thanks very much for that.
Good stuff. Say bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.
I think we missed you 2 out. I don't think we did it 2.
Or maybe we thought that. Did we think that was In Bruges one of the rejects?
Yeah.
Then we treat it as if it was number 5 or something like that.
Yeah. I'll edit round it. It's all right.
There's still plenty of films there.
Yeah.
We did talk about a lot. Yeah.
So what time's it there now?
It's 12. Time for lunch.
Nice.
Time for tea.
On a Monday, is it?
Look, Ross has already been over you with this for so many times. So
yeah, that was 3 hours ago. I forgot about it.
Because there's people that have come on that were terrified of coming on. And giving them a subject is something that makes people feel more comfortable. Because me and Simon do podcasts, and we have very little subject matter, and we're just literally
we stretch it out very thick.
You guys talk a lot about bumming each other.
Yeah.
Which has increased when we've not been able to record them together as well. So
do you find you get more viewers on those episodes than the other ones?
Certainly on the video feed.
That's our main revenue now.
Well, you guys are really good at mitigating your dead air time, which is really good, and it's also really hard as a presenter to do that. So, hat off to you guys.
Glory of editing.
It's like when he rings, you go like, this is an hour gone. I'll be on the phone to Ross for an hour, just talking about everything. Generally, which one of us has been ill, or the most embarrassing thing we did yesterday.
Yeah, who's most recently soiled themselves?
Yeah.
I'd lose that
It's always
every day.
that. It's always that. I don't know why,
lose that.
Ryan. It's always that.
Right, I'm going to bounce because I'm going to piss myself.
Yeah,
I got a shit.
That's fine.
That's, guys, that was awesome, Anders.
I'll be somewhere in between the two.
Chofty.
Yeah. Right.
It might be impressive, but what a fucking waste of time.